big changes are coming south of the Ohio River. The Covington Central Riverfront Project may be the largest redevelopment we've seen in this area in decades. So what does that mean for you? Recently, we've learned a lot more about this project, so we will cover what we already know, what is yet to be decided, how we expect this to impact the local neighborhood, including local businesses, and even some controversy surrounding this project. But before we do, just a quick reminder, most of the information that I cover on this channel is stuff I've learned helping my clients research the best place for them to live in the Cincinnati area. So if you are considering a move to Cincinnati or the surrounding areas, including Ohio and Kentucky, I would love to talk to you about what's going to be the best move for you. To make that easy, I've included links and my contact information in the show notes. Reach out however it's best for you. You can find us just about anywhere, but those links and the information there is probably the most direct way to find it. But yeah, let's get to the Covington Central Riverfront Project. First of all, you may have already heard about this by a different name. A lot of the local people, especially people who've been here for years, would refer to it as the old IRS site. This development is happening on a crucial 23-acre site. This old IRS site has been long vacant, and before it was vacant, it was underutilized. And it really wasn't the right fit for that type of property anyway, because on the north side, it's riverfront, high-value property. And on the south side, it's Covington's downtown. It's even bordered by Covington's Northern Kentucky Convention Center, which will be expanding into this property as well. So you can see all of the value wrapped up into this site that just has gone to waste for years. But that's enough of the history. Let's look forward, because what's happening here is a major mixed-use development. We're expecting new businesses, new restaurants, a lot of new rental apartments, but also even single-family homes and townhomes that you would be able to buy in this new neighborhood. And I keep calling it a new neighborhood. Technically, it's in the central business district of Covington. However, it will be so unique compared to anything around it that I feel like this is going to have to be a new neighborhood. Even if they don't officially give it a new neighborhood name, this is going to feel different than anything else that you can find in Covington proper. And not only will it have its own unique look and feel compared to anything else in Covington, but it has just about everything that you would expect to need in a neighborhood. Of course, you'll have restaurants and you'll have different businesses. And as we covered, you will have different options for how you want to live in the area, but you even have additional parks, public spaces, and they're looking for different ways to activate those public spaces. It'll be a really exciting place to live. Covington's stated goal for this development is to bring more people, more business, more attractions downtown Covington. They do want to attract more people across the river that were considering Cincinnati, but even people that were considering Newport, or maybe you still live in those areas and they want you to come visit for an evening and spend your dollars in Covington. And I keep talking about what Covington wants out of it because they haven't just sold off this land to one major developer. They've split it up into 17 lots and are taking RFPs one lot at a time to help them determine what's going to go into this development. Rather than something like Ovation, where one corporation has owned that lot for a long time, finally they're building it out. And really the city of Newport didn't have a lot of say in the long run of what would happen. This development can actually be compared to something like the Ovation project in Newport. It is very different than the Ovation project in Newport. Now, Ovation has places to rent, it has places to buy, it has green spaces, and there will be businesses in that project as well. So it sounds very similar, but it's a very different approach. With Ovation, there's basically one major developer that's determining what's happening there and when it's happening, which is why it sat for so long for it to reach some viability for that developer to move forward with that project. However, Covington's approach gives the city of Covington more say in what's going to happen on this site And it also makes it easier for smaller developers to be involved because they don't have to develop the whole site. They can bid on one of the 17 lots and really have a great project for that small developer. I think that's potentially a big win for some of the smaller local developers who can bid on a single lot, and really have a big win for them that they really wouldn't have access to if this was just one major project. They might have been able to help a major developer with some smaller parts of their big project, but this gives them more control. And I think that's great when any of our small local businesses are included in big projects like this. Okay, so what has been built out so far? Not a lot. 4 of the 17 lots have been spoken for. Different companies have bid on these lots, and 4 have been awarded to different developers. The smallest of those developments was awarded to Dries Home, a builder here that a lot of people know because they build a lot of homes in the area. I wouldn't consider them a small builder by any means, but this project is on the small side for them. This is a $7 million project that will result in 16 townhomes on Lot B. And it does seem like Covington is prioritizing some of the homes to be built out first, or that might just be an easier project for them to lock down and get started. Because the second project that was awarded went to Funky Real Estate, which is going to be an $8.7 million development that will result in 10 homes and some mixed-use development as well. The final 2 of the 4 lots that have already been awarded to developers went to Silverman and Company. They are developing a 257-unit mixed-use development with structured parking. So this is the biggest project that has already been awarded. All 4 of these projects are on the south side of the development, which would be the phase 1 of this development. It's not all of phase 1 though, it's not even half of it. So there's a lot to be figured out in that area, and then it will push north closer to the riverfront. So we know what's happening on A, B, and N, as well as M, but O, we expect to hear very soon what will be happening on that part of the site. And O is interesting because it's a large lot, and it's kind of away from some of the other things. So it could be something interesting there as far as a larger business or a larger attraction going into that. I could also see O having a large parking component because that would be beneficial not only for this riverfront project, but also Main Strasse because it is closer to the Main Strasse area. And speaking of parking, we do know that Lot P is earmarked for the Northern Kentucky Convention Center. And we expect a large part, if not all of that, to be parking for that expansion of the convention center. So we have a lot of convention center topics here in the Cincinnati area because that Northern Kentucky Convention Center is being developed, as well as the Cincinnati Convention Center is being completely redeveloped. So that might be a later video to come and check back on. The Board of Commissioners are expecting to rule on 2 to 4 more developments this spring. So once we have news on that, we will report back on what ends up going into those sites. We do still know though that the development will include a $125 million facility that will house Northern Kentucky University's Chase Law School, as well as University of Kentucky's College of Medicine Northern Kentucky campus. As much as I'm excited about the new housing in this development, I actually think the university presence may be some of the most impactful part of this development. So I'm excited to see how that ends up being a driver for the economy in Northern Kentucky and really greater Cincinnati as a whole. This is somewhat of a pet peeve of mine because it was only recently that the city of Cincinnati has developed the riverside of the northern shore of the Ohio River to be a much more attractive place to be. A lot of parks, a lot of walking areas, and it's just a nice place to hang out and spend some time, as well as for the city to host some of our best events. But even with that recent development, we look across the river and the Kentucky side is definitely underdeveloped in that way. They do host events on that side of the river. However, they've been mostly in kind of parking lot situations when you would think that that would be a nice park-like setting to have some major events. And that's exactly what Covington wants to do with this area. So expect new parks, new walking trails, and a riverfront plaza where they can host major events. On top of that, there will be a land bridge to connect to the levee to give easier access to the levee and walk to some of the neighboring communities as well. And before someone jumps in the comments and starts complaining about more people, more cars, and more congestion in this city, who would think that we'd bring more people to our city, but they will include 670 parking spaces in a parking garage in this development. But what I think is a more important topic here is that we should have places for people to live downtown and businesses for them to frequent without using a car. So I love all of the walkability with this project, but in this city, it seems like cars are essential and they are going to have a place for them to park cars for people who live and visit this development. But what if you're interested in Covington, but not interested in living in this area or even frequenting this area? Maybe you already live in Covington. How is it going to impact you? Well, frankly, the way I see Covington is values are going up across the city, and especially in the corridor of between I-71-75 and the Licking River. And I would say that extends down, and we will see more benefit extending down to Wallace Woods. And so basically everything Wallace Woods and north in that narrow corridor between the interstate and the river, I expect values to go up based on this project. It's also just reinforcing what is already happening. Values are already going up there. One other aspect I look at when considering these new developments is, will it also have a short-term negative effect on home values as far as the homes that are already there? And I don't really expect that in this case. We do see that when new developments go into suburban areas and they are building homes that are pretty similar to what's already there. But this is a unique project, and it's bringing unique homes, and it's bringing more businesses for people to have more options in Covington. So overall, I think this is a positive for you if you're already living in Covington. You might have some headaches as far as the construction happening and increased congestion. For sure, that's going to be a side effect of all of this, especially in the short term. And I think in the long run, the development is going to go at it in a smart way that it can all fit in and be a part of the city. What about the potential negatives with this project? Well, first of all, I think one negative that is really avoided with this is that no one's going to be displaced by this project. It was an old IRS site and it was empty and it really wasn't serving a purpose for the city. So no one's going to be displaced from this project directly. However, if it has an impact of driving prices up and driving the local taxes, property taxes up in the area, that can have an effect, and it can have a displacing effect on the local people that are around this development. I think it's a valid concern, and I think we should all be paying attention to it. I also think that some of that is already happening. People are realizing that Covington is a great place to live, and people are realizing that they can get a lot in Covington compared to similar areas in Cincinnati. So naturally, the market is going to increase values in those more affordable areas, Covington having a lot of those more affordable areas, and that's going to have a leveling effect over time. On the flip side though, more housing is a good thing for affordable housing. And I'm sure there's going to be people in the comments or reaching out to me directly to say, well, this isn't affordable housing, it's not going to make housing more. However, more housing at higher price points means people who are looking to upsize have more options, and it means more inventory when those people leave those lower value homes. So it has an effect down the entire market. Another concern people are expressing, and this always comes up with these developments, it's kind of understandable because you are going to have more residents and they are going to bring more cars. It's also in an area that gets a little congested because it is a choke point between the Licking River as well as I-71 and I-75. And on top of all of that, they are redeveloping the Brent Spence Bridge. So there's a lot happening in that small area. So there probably is at least some short-term traffic and congestion issues that will come up. However, it does include parking that can be used for the residents as well as people visiting this area. And I'm hopeful that it's actually going to alleviate some of the parking issues near Main Strasse. And I think one of the keys that is really easy to overlook that is a possible problem with this project is, will the new businesses survive? And this is something that I'm looking at the city of Covington to make sure that they are doing their due diligence to pick the best businesses that are the best fit for this development. I'm actually happy that the city of Covington is retaining a lot of the control and a lot of the design element so that they can help determine what is the right fit for this area. I'm not looking for a lot of government overreach in that. However, we have seen several development areas that have high turnover. And I'm looking at the redevelopment of Newport on the Levee in past cycles. I think the Newport on the Levee development is doing pretty well right now, but in the past we've seen different businesses come and go from there. When that happens, it's really hard for future businesses to take hold because they almost get a reputation that this is an area where the businesses aren't going to stick around long. And the people will quit coming to that area if they have those low expectations. So it's important that the new businesses going in have a high rate of success. And I'm hopeful that we will see that with what is going in here. So here are some of the Covington neighborhoods that already exist that will see some of the greatest impact from this development. And first of all, I think we have to look from a business, entertainment, nightlife aspect first, because bringing in an entire neighborhood of new residents is going to mean the existing businesses have a big opportunity to attract them to support those businesses. So first of all, I would look at Main Strasse. And I look at this area because in ways it has the closest proximity and also a benefit if there is parking in that corner that they're gonna have a really clear benefit. It's gonna be pretty easily walkable from this development to get into Main Strasse. And so I think those businesses, those restaurants, those bars have a huge opportunity to attract those people to support those local businesses. And they're doing well already, so that can help support them to reinvest or add in additional options in that area. And if you're not already familiar with Main Strasse, this area is probably your closest example to what the Kentucky side has compared to Over the Rhine in Cincinnati, our most popular neighborhood in the entire city. Main Strasse is known for its German heritage, for bars, restaurants, nightlife, and it's got a lot of historic architecture in this area too, including single-family homes as well as smaller condo units. You can find duplexes, triplexes, and quads there pretty easily if you're looking for a unit to rent. I also look at the businesses along Madison Avenue, and I'm curious if that development comes further north to really connect this development all the way up to your Hotel Covington, your Braxton, and all the developments in that area. I think that's one of the most exciting places to look outside of this development, because historically all the bars, nightlife, restaurants were really focused on Main Strasse with a few places along Madison, and that's really changing. Rather than just being focused on Main Strasse, the Covington nightlife and bar and restaurant scene is now kind of becoming two different scenes. I think one of the most interesting changes outside of this development for Covington is it does seem to be a trend of Madison Avenue really building out. And not just on Madison directly, but if you look at Braxton and you kind of group those businesses in that little triangle into Madison Avenue, it's like the Covington scene is becoming two different scenes. You've got Main Strasse on one side and you've got kind of the Madison Avenue contingent on the other. And I think that's good for the city. I think that's good that those two areas culturally have some differences. And I think that's a really exciting thing to see. And I'm excited also to see how this development changes or amplifies that whole development happening. And I'm excited to see how this riverfront development amplifies or changes that trend. And maybe it actually becomes three different focal points rather than those two focal points in the bars and entertainment districts. If you're looking at places to be near this development, or you're just excited about what's happening in Covington and you have a larger budget to spend, I'd be looking at places like Licking Riverside. I would look at Seminary Square and Old Town. All of these neighborhoods have their own vibe, but they all also have historic architecture and really nice homes, as well as walkability, tree-lined streets, and views of the city if you're in Licking Riverside. But let's say you don't have that large budget, but you have goals of being a homeowner in Covington. I would look at places that are a little further south. If you get further away from the river, you mostly find more affordable places, with some exceptions. These are different than how we're distinguishing West Side and East Side in Cincinnati, which is very broad. It includes several neighborhoods on the Cincinnati side. Rather, West Side and East Side in Covington are actually pretty central neighborhoods. And even more affordable, you can look at an area like Austinburg. And if you are kind of in that middle area, there's a neighborhood south of Austinburg that I'm surprised more people don't know about, because you find some really cool, very large homes in this area, and the prices just don't quite make sense when you consider the type of home that you're getting and what you're spending for it. And that's Wallace Woods. Wallace Woods is a fantastic place if you are looking for a neighborhood that's close to the city, historic architecture, tree-lined streets, a lot of walkability, and just crazy affordable compared to what you would get in Cincinnati or these Northern Kentucky neighborhoods closer to the river. Also, we're talking about, oh, this is further away from the river and it's further away from downtown Cincinnati, and you can still get across the river in less than 10 minutes. And really, it's probably closer to 5 minutes if you're not going at high traffic time. Finally, I also think this redevelopment is so important just from the standpoint that it's not the only thing happening along the river. This is actually a portion of a much larger development across multiple cities on the Northern Kentucky side, and it even ties into some of the developments happening in Cincinnati. One major development that is going to drive connectivity, walkability, and just more access for getting outdoors. And it even ties into some really exciting developments on the Cincinnati side as well. A development that is going to create different bike paths, walking and running paths across both sides of the river and connected across bridges. It also addresses one of the key issues we have in basically every city in this country, is the lack of gathering places. We've really developed in a way that hasn't prioritized that for decades, and this is coming back to bringing people together in entertainment plazas. And I think that's a really exciting aspect of this development. It's going to be something not just for the people who end up buying or renting in this area, but for everyone across Covington and greater Cincinnati. So what should you do with this information? Well, if you are looking to buy into a exciting new neighborhood, then hold tight. It's not done yet, but that option is coming up for you. However, if you aren't looking to wait, should you consider buying now? Should you consider selling now? Well, if you're looking to buy in some of these Covington neighborhoods we've talked about that we do see increasing values, yeah, the time is probably now, because we don't see prices going down anytime soon. That kind of goes for all of greater Cincinnati, just to be clear. When, let's say that you're considering buying, but it's not for your own residence, but you are considering or are already an active investor, I think this is an area that you should be looking. That these values in this area, we do expect to go up, and we expect them to go up quicker than a lot of areas across Cincinnati, which we anticipate values going up across the city as well. And one rule of thumb that I always look at is, if you're seeing these major developments, you can know that investors have already been profiting in that area for a long time. These major developments don't happen overnight, and they don't tend to be the things that are the forebearer of development. These trends have been locked into Covington, that values are going up, it's getting more attention, and more people are considering Covington as a great place to live. Now, if you're a first-time home buyer or a potential first-time home buyer, this is still a great place to consider. You can find homes that are under $300,000, and these aren't just tiny, cramped homes. In fact, if you want a tiny home and you're willing to go a little further south, you can find homes for $150,000 in Covington. It's not going to be in this development. Those aren't going to be the affordable areas, but if you have a really well-paying job or you're an older first-time home buyer, when they become available, these might be great options as well. But what I would do if you are in position to buy now is I'd buy now, because when we look years into the future, you would then be buying again with equity on your side And also, you're buying at a time that we are seeing a little bit less demand because of higher interest rates. So if you can afford the current monthly payments and have the ability to be in position to own the home and potentially refinance later, then that's going to be a better position rather than combating with all of the increased demand later. And increased demand is going to result in increased purchase prices, which you cannot renegotiate down the road. But should anyone want to sell because of this development? Maybe. If you are looking to get out of the area pretty soon, but you're not sure if now's the right time, well, you might want to sell to avoid some of the hassle of the construction. If you're already in that place where you know it's going to be time to move on, you might as well not deal with the short-term pain since you're not going to get the long-term benefit. But on the flip side, if your only thing is getting the highest price for your home, then you also have the option to hang tight and watch what happens with prices. Because if you own a property that's not similar to what's being built in that area, you don't have to worry too much about oversaturation based on what's being built there. Because the person who's interested in buying your home probably isn't interested in buying in this development. And lastly, other people who might want to sell, if you're in a stage of life that you need some extra room and you're looking to be in an area that has less traffic, less congestion, now might be the time to sell. So I recently went through the stage where we have a growing family and I moved from downtown Cincinnati to Pleasant Ridge on the north side of Cincinnati, but still in the city. I ended up getting a lot more space in my house and a lot more space in the yard that we have, as well as 2-car garage and off-street parking. And my last home, I didn't have any off-street parking. So if you are in a stage where what I just described where I moved to is more desirable, you might want to just go ahead and look at selling now and getting into that place, because this development will bring more congestion. That's a fact. There will be more people and more cars in the area. So if you're looking to get away from that, it's not going to get better in this area. However, you will have more green space. You might find the area more desirable because you will have those parks to go to. So if that's the type of thing that's going to make the difference rather than having your own backyard, then you could also hang tight. And my final thoughts is this is another example of something that we're seeing all across greater Cincinnati. We have come out of 50 plus years of disinvestment. From just different economic trends, including employers leaving and our population shrinking because of it, well, we're now seeing those trends reverse. We're seeing the Cincinnati area grow for the first time in decades, and we are seeing Covington benefit as well. This type of investment and development didn't happen for decades because of those trends, but now that we're seeing other cities become so unaffordable, people are looking back to our region, and more employers are looking to set up shop here as well. We are seeing investments in downtown and on every edge of our greater Cincinnati area, including near the airport in northern Kentucky, and even on the north side of Cincinnati with some of the office headquarters that are going in there. So this new energized rejuvenation is happening all across the city. And if you're really excited about being close to the river and close to downtown, and maybe you also have a preference to stay on the Kentucky side, this might be the area for you. Covington is one of the most exciting places in the greater Cincinnati area, in my opinion. But with that growth and the focus on this area as being a really affordable place to buy, that won't last long. But with all this focus on our area, and especially this Covington area as an affordable place to live the lifestyle you want, that affordability won't last forever. We're already seeing the trend of homes are getting more expensive, and really all sorts of life are getting more expensive everywhere, and we're not immune to it here. So it could happen that this area is no longer affordable. The people who benefit from that are people who already own homes, not the people who are looking to buy a home into a future that looks more expensive. Because when you are upsizing your home in that more expensive time, you have equity built into the investment you have previously made. If you're thinking about buying or selling in Covington, we've made it really easy for you to connect with us. All of my contact information is in the show notes, and even easier than that, click the link and you can schedule a time that I will reach out to you directly. So I hope you got something out of this video, and if you did, drop a comment, let us know what you're excited about or what you don't like about this development, and be sure to subscribe to this channel because I'm going to come back here to talk about other major developments and the things that you need to know about life in Cincinnati. So if you're considering that move here, or if you already live here, we are going to be covering the topics you need to know. So until next time, keep moving confidently.